You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. And before we dive in, a quick apology. My Hebrew pronunciation sometimes comes out sounding like autocorrect gone wrong because, well, I'm an AI voice. So if I say Chagai instead of Kagai, just roll with it. Trust me, the real prophet isn't offended. Today's topic is the Book of Haggai. Now, you might be thinking, wait, who? I don't remember a prophet with that name from Hebrew school or from that Netflix biblical spinoff they never actually made. That's fair. Haggai is one of those blink and you'll miss it prophets, only 2 short chapters long, tucked away among the 12 minor prophets. But don't let the minor fool you. It's like calling espresso minor coffee. Short, yes, but packed with a jolt that wakes you up. Haggai's message isn't background noise. It's more like the push notification from God that the people of Judah really needed. Haggai pops up around 520 BCE, a moment when history felt like one giant construction project that stalled halfway through. Picture this. The Jews had just come back from Babylonian exile. Cyrus of Persia gave the green light to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. Everyone rolled up their sleeves, got excited, and then they stopped. Why? Life got in the way. They started fixing their houses, opening new businesses, catching up on Netflix. Okay, not Netflix, but the ancient equivalent of binging on distractions. The temple, meant to be the beating heart of Jewish identity, just sat there unfinished, like that IKEA bookshelf you swore you'd put together last summer. Enter Haggai. His whole mission was basically motivational speaking with divine backing. He said, hey people, you've got beautiful paneled houses, but God's house is a mess. Priorities, folks. That was his message in a nutshell. Short, sharp, and kind of like a divine calendar reminder that says, you're overdue. One of the things that makes Haggai's message so relatable is how human the people's procrastination feels. We've all been there. You plan to go to the gym, but somehow laundry suddenly feels like a life or death mission. The Judeans weren't bad people. They just got distracted, overwhelmed, a little lazy. Haggai points out that while they've been focusing on their own comfort, their crops have failed. Their wallets feel empty, and nothing seems to bring satisfaction. It's like trying to fill a bag with holes in it. His point was that ignoring the temple wasn't just about neglecting a building. It was about losing sight of their covenant with God. By fixing God's house, they'd also realign their spiritual house. And here's the cool part. Unlike some prophets who had to yell until their beards turned gray, the people actually listened to Haggai. Within a month, they started working again. Imagine a prophet who didn't get ghosted by his audience. That's a win. Now, let's talk about the temple. Why was this building so important? In the ancient Jewish imagination, the temple wasn't just a synagogue with better architecture. It was God's earthly dwelling place, the ultimate Wi-Fi hotspot for divine presence. Without it, the people felt disconnected, spiritually buffering. Haggai's job was to convince them that rebuilding wasn't optional. It was central to their identity. But here's the twist. The second temple, the one Haggai inspired them to finish, didn't look as glorious as Solomon's original. People grumbled, like, this doesn't match the first one's Yelp reviews. Haggai encouraged them, saying that the glory of the new temple would surpass the old. He reassured them that God's presence, not the gold or marble, gave the temple its value. It's kind of like realizing that a family meal at your cluttered kitchen table can feel more meaningful than fine dining at a Michelin star restaurant. Atmosphere matters, but presence matters more. That's a timeless message. And because Haggai's book is only 2 chapters, you can basically binge read it in under 10 minutes, quicker than scrolling through TikTok. But don't confuse brevity with lack of depth. Haggai's words became a turning point in Jewish history. He emphasized that God wasn't just about rituals or ceremonies. God cared about action. Build the temple, restore the covenant, refocus your lives. His prophecy has this just do it energy that could rival a Nike ad. And here's another key element. Haggai talks about Zerubbabel, the governor of Judah, like he's got messianic potential. He calls him God's signet ring, a symbol of authority and chosenness. It was a bold way of saying, this leader matters, and through him, God's promises are still alive. People needed hope after exile, and Haggai gave them a reason to believe their future wasn't just rubble and regret. Hope and action combined. That's his signature style. Haggai's words also set the stage for something bigger. Think of him as the warm-up act before the headliner. His push to rebuild the temple created the space where Jewish worship, sacrifice, and identity would thrive for centuries, right up until the Romans destroyed that second temple in 70 CE. Without Haggai's pep talk, Jewish history might have looked completely different. And even though we don't offer sacrifices anymore, his emphasis on putting God first still resonates. It's the eternal question of priorities. Do we get so lost in our own projects that we forget what truly grounds us? Haggai would definitely be the guy tapping his watch, saying, "Remember what matters." And honestly, isn't that still relevant today? We obsess over our jobs, our Instagram aesthetics, our Netflix queues, while sometimes ignoring the bigger spiritual picture. Haggai basically says, build what connects you to something larger than yourself. Still a great piece of advice in 2025. So how does Haggai fit into modern Jewish thought? You won't often hear rabbis giving long sermons on him, but his themes sneak into plenty of discussions. His call to prioritize spiritual commitments over material ones echoes in conversations about Shabbat observance, community service, and even Jewish philanthropy. Think about it. Do you pour more resources into your kitchen remodel or into supporting the synagogue where your kids learn and grow? That's Haggai territory. And his reminder that God's presence is what makes a place special connects deeply with the Jewish idea that holiness can show up anywhere people gather with purpose. You don't need a giant building, you need intention. In a way, Haggai democratized holiness before it was trendy. He said, focus less on the fancy stuff, more on showing up for the covenant. That's a message that works whether you're in a grand sanctuary or a pop-up minyan in someone's living room. I also love how Haggai can be read almost like a self-help book, except without the cheesy titles. Imagine it on a bookstore shelf. Haggai, stop procrastinating and build what matters. His whole vibe is about getting unstuck. When people say they want to get their lives in order, Haggai would probably say, great. Start by recentering your relationship with God, and the rest will follow. And if you're not the religious type, you can still hear his wisdom. Build your priorities. Align your actions with your values. Don't waste energy on things that never fill you up. It's like he was ahead of the curve on minimalism, focus, and mindfulness. Forget Marie Kondo. Haggai was telling people to spark joy by rebuilding their spiritual house long before decluttering was a trend. His words can read like ancient life coaching, which is wild when you remember the whole book is barely a few pages long. And if you think 2 chapters of prophecy can't make a big splash, just remember how often short messages change lives. Think of the shortest tweets or memes that go viral, or how a single TED Talk can shift someone's mindset forever. Haggai's shortness is his strength. He doesn't drone on like the friend who won't stop telling a boring story. He gets right to the point. Prioritize God. Build the temple. Hope is alive. Boom. Done. And because the people actually listened, his story ends on a high note. That's rare for prophets, who usually leave the stage frustrated, ignored, or worse. Haggai walks off with a win. It makes me think that sometimes the best advice isn't long-winded. It's short, clear, and nudges you toward what you already know you need to do. That's why Haggai deserves more love than he usually gets in the lineup of biblical heavyweights. So there you have it, the Book of Haggai. 2 chapters, 1 laser-focused mission, and a message that still makes sense today. Don't get so lost in your paneled houses, your deadlines, or your social feeds that you forget to build what really matters. Haggai tells us that presence, priority, and purpose are the foundation of life, whether you're living in ancient Jerusalem or streaming podcasts in your car on the way to Trader Joe's. Thanks so much for listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please forward it to a friend who might like it, or leave us a positive review so others can find the podcast too. Until next time, remember that even the shortest messages can carry the biggest truths.